Good evening, and welcome to Kenya News Update today. I'm your host. In a major disruption affecting one of Africa's most important long-haul routes, Kenya Airways has been forced to cancel all flights between Nairobi and New York due to a historic blizzard paralyzing the United States East Coast. The decision, announced on Saturday, February 21st, 2026, leaves passengers stranded on both ends of the 7,000-mile corridor and deals another blow to the national carrier's crucial transatlantic operations. Tonight, we dive deep into the cascading effects of this weather event, from the immediate travel chaos to the broader economic implications for Kenya's aviation sector and tourism industry. We'll examine the airline's recent turbulent history, the specific challenges of operating this ultra-long-haul route, and what this latest setback means for its ambitious recovery plan. We'll also hear perspectives from stranded passengers, industry analysts, and government officials. This is a 12-minute deep dive. Let's begin with the immediate facts. Kenya Airways, or KQ, issued a customer advisory on Saturday, February 21st, 2026. The airline canceled its flight KQ002 from Nairobi to New York's John F. Kennedy International Airport, or JFK, which was scheduled to depart at 11:15 p.m. local time. The return flight, KQ003 from JFK to Nairobi, scheduled for Sunday, February 22nd at 10 p.m. Eastern Time, was also grounded. The cause, a severe blizzard warning issued by the U.S. National Weather Service, predicting heavy snowfall exceeding 24 inches, winds gusting over 60 miles per hour, and near-zero visibility across the New York metropolitan area. In response, the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey, which operates JFK, made the unprecedented decision to suspend all flight operations for specific periods throughout Sunday, February 22nd. This wasn't a minor delay, it was a full-scale shutdown of one of the world's busiest international gateways. The impact was instantaneous and severe. Our sources indicate that approximately 420 passengers were directly affected by these two cancellations. This includes 234 passengers booked on the outbound KQ002 from Nairobi and 186 passengers scheduled to return to Kenya on KQ003. These travelers now face indefinite delays, with rebooking options complicated by the massive backlog created as airlines worldwide scramble to recover from the storm. At Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, or JKIA, in Nairobi, scenes of frustration unfolded at Terminal 1A, dedicated to KQ's premium long-haul flights. One stranded business traveler, Michael O. Chiang, shared his frustration, quote, "I had critical meetings scheduled in Manhattan for Monday morning. This is a massive disruption. The airline says they'll rebook me, but with the airport closed, who knows when the next available seat will be? It could be days," end quote. This operational crisis comes at a particularly sensitive time for Kenya Airways. The airline is in the midst of a delicate financial and operational restructuring. Just 1 week prior, on Sunday, February 15th, 2026, the Kenya Aviation Workers Union called off a planned strike after reaching a last-minute agreement with management over pending salary arrears and working conditions. That threatened strike had already caused significant anxiety and some preemptive cancellations, stranding passengers. The union had demanded the settlement of 1.2 billion shillings in outstanding dues. The resolution averted a complete grounding, but it highlighted the fragile labor relations within the company. Now, barely a week later, an external force of nature has achieved what the union did not: a full suspension of its flagship U.S. service. To understand the full weight of this cancellation, we need to look at the strategic importance of the Nairobi-New York route. Launched in October 2018, it was hailed as a historic achievement, the first ever non-stop passenger flight between East Africa and the United States. The flight covers a staggering distance of 7,381 miles, taking approximately 15 hours westbound and 14 hours eastbound. It's operated by one of KQ's flagship Boeing 787-8 Dreamliners, configured with 234 seats, 30 in business class and 204 in economy. This route is not just a flight, it's a symbol of national pride and a critical economic artery. It facilitates vital business, diplomatic, and tourism links. Before the pandemic, it was a consistent performer, carrying over 70,000 passengers annually and generating crucial foreign currency revenue. Its cancellation represents more than lost ticket sales, it's a rupture in a key conduit for Kenya's global engagement. Financially, the cost of this disruption is substantial. While exact figures are still being calculated, Industry analysts we spoke to provided a preliminary breakdown. Each canceled round-trip flight, meaning one Nairobi-New York and one New York-Nairobi journey, represents a direct revenue loss of approximately 120 million shillings. This is based on average load factors and fare mixes. With both weekend flights canceled, that's an immediate revenue hit of around 240 million shillings. But the costs don't stop there. The airline must now cover expenses for passenger care, including hotel accommodations and meal vouchers for those stranded far from home. There are also operational costs for repositioning crew and aircraft, and potential compensation claims under international aviation regulations if delays exceed certain thresholds. Aviation economist Dr. Aisha Mwenda estimates the total direct financial impact could reach 500 million shillings once all ancillary costs are factored in. Let's visualize the passenger impact and the route's significance. The Nairobi-New York route typically operates at a high capacity. Beyond the immediate balance sheet, the ripple effects touch multiple sectors of the Kenyan economy. Tourism is the most obvious casualty. The United States is Kenya's second largest source market for overseas tourists, after the United Kingdom. In 2025, Kenya welcomed over 280,000 American visitors. A significant portion of these tourists, especially high-spending safari goers, arrive via the direct KQ flight. A prolonged suspension or even a perception of unreliability on this route could lead tour operators to reroute clients through European hubs like London or Amsterdam. On competitors like British Airways or KLM, this not only loses KQ the long-haul segment, but also undermines Kenya's positioning as a directly accessible destination. James Mwangi, CEO of a leading safari company, told us, quote, "Confidence is everything. Our U.S. clients pay a premium for the convenience of the direct flight. If that link is broken, even by weather, it plants a seed of doubt. We are already fielding concerned calls from clients with bookings for March," end quote. The cargo hold of the Dreamliner is another critical, often overlooked revenue stream. Kenya's horticulture industry, a top foreign exchange earner, relies heavily on air freight to get fresh flowers, vegetables, and fruits to lucrative U.S. markets. The New York flight carries tons of perishable exports every week. A cancellation means those goods, primarily roses from Naivasha, must be offloaded, stored, or rerouted at great cost and risk of spoilage. The Kenya Flower Council reported that over 50 tons of cut flowers destined for Valentine's Day follow-up sales in the U.S. were affected by the weekend's cancellations, representing a potential loss of 80 million shillings for exporters. On the import side, the flight carries essential pharmaceuticals, technology parts, and other time-sensitive goods into Kenya. This disruption thus strikes at the heart of just-in-time supply chains. So, how is Kenya Airways managing this crisis? The airline's communications team has been active, issuing regular updates via its website and social media channels. They have stated that all affected passengers are being rebooked on the next available services, though they acknowledge that due to high demand, this may take several days. They have also activated their partnership with Delta Airlines, which has a code share on the route, to try and find alternative connections through other U.S. hubs not affected by the blizzard, such as Atlanta or Detroit. However, this adds significant travel time and complexity for passengers. At JKIA, extra customer service personnel have been deployed to handle inquiries and rebooking requests. The airline is also complying with Kenyan aviation regulations, which mandate the provision of refreshments and communication for passengers facing delays over 5 hours and hotel accommodation for overnight delays. We sought perspective from the government, as the majority shareholder of Kenya Airways. Cabinet Secretary for Transport, Honorable Oncemus Mwangi, acknowledged the disruption but framed it as an unavoidable act of nature. Quote, "While regrettable, the safety of passengers and crew is paramount. Kenya Airways acted prudently in canceling these flights preemptively, rather than risking a diversion or an unsafe situation," end quote, the CS said in a brief statement. He emphasized that the government's focus remains on the long-term restructuring of the airline under the Project Kifaru framework, which aims to restore profitability by 2027. However, opposition legislators have been quick to criticize. Nominated MP Sophia Abdi questioned the airline's contingency planning. Quote, "This is not the first snowstorm in New York. While we cannot control the weather, we can control our preparedness." Does our national carrier have robust contingency plans and partnerships to mitigate such disruptions, or do passengers always bear the brunt? This incident exposes continued vulnerabilities, end quote. Looking at the broader context of US-Kenya relations adds another layer. Since President Donald Trump resumed office in January 2025, the bilateral relationship has entered a new phase focused on trade and security. Direct air connectivity is a pillar of that relationship. The U.S. Federal Aviation Administration's, or FAA, Category 1 safety rating for Kenya, which allows KQ to fly directly to the U.S., is a hard-won achievement. Any operational incidents, even whether related, are scrutinized. Furthermore, the ongoing negotiations for a full U.S.-Kenya Strategic Trade and Investment Partnership, or STIP, hinge on demonstrating reliable logistics and open markets. A resilient air link is a tangible proof point. Aviation analyst Captain Paul Gichuki notes, quote, "In the eyes of international partners, especially the U.S., consistent operation of this route signals stability and capability. Frequent disruptions, for any reason, can subtly undermine that confidence at a diplomatic and investment level." End quote. What does the future hold? The immediate priority is restoring service. As of our broadcast, JFK Airport has begun a phased reopening, but the cleanup is massive. Kenya Airways hopes to resume operations with its next scheduled flight on Tuesday, February 24th. However, the backlog will take days to clear. In the medium term, this event will likely reignite debates about the airline's fleet strategy and route resilience. Some analysts argue that maintaining a single dedicated aircraft for such a long, thin route is inherently risky. They suggest wet leasing a backup aircraft during the volatile North American winter season to provide a buffer. Others point to the need for deeper alliances. While KQ is part of the SkyTeam Alliance via its partnership with Delta, a more integrated joint venture could provide stronger rebooking networks and shared operational risk. For the Kenyan traveler and exporter, the lesson is one of contingency. Travel insurance that covers weather disruptions is now more essential than ever. Exporters may need to diversify their air freight options, perhaps utilizing cargo flights through other hubs like Legion Belgium, though at a higher cost. The government, through the Kenya Civil Aviation Authority, or KCAA, might review the regulations governing passenger compensation to ensure they are in line with global best practices, providing clearer recourse for travelers affected by such major disruptions. In conclusion, the cancellation of the New York flights is a stark reminder of the vulnerabilities inherent in global aviation, even for a route celebrated as a national achievement. It is a story where meteorology in North America translates directly into economic and logistical distress in East Africa. For Kenya Airways, it is a test of crisis management amidst its fragile recovery. For Kenya, it highlights the double-edged sword of global connectivity, immense benefits paired with exposure to distant shocks. The airline's response in the coming days, its ability to care for stranded passengers and swiftly restore normal operations, will be closely watched by the market, the government, and the flying public. The skies over JFK may be clearing, but the turbulence for KQ is far from over. This has been a Kenya News Update Today deep dive. Subscribe to Kenya News Update Today for continued coverage of this developing story.